So in Wario Land 1, I think that the boss of the teapot is a big bull, with horns and a ring around the nose and an angry face, and charges towards you with the horns. In the volcano stage in Mario 64, I think... Well, I'm not sure if it's in the volcano or around the volcano, but you fight these, like a bull kind of horned bomb thing that also sort of charges towards you. And in both cases, I feel we're associating the image of a volcano, because I think that the teapot... the teapot in Wario Land 1, I would claim, is a volcano, because there's lava inside of it. The battle with that bull takes place in a lava sort of section, and I would assume that the whole inside of the mountain is filled with lava. I imagine that's why it's a joke that it's a teapot, because steam comes out of the lid at the top of the teapot. So heat is rising up from the depths. So in both of these cases, this bull-like figure I take to represent a certain kind of anger and force, because they force themselves in your way and push their horns in your direction. They tackle you. In that tackling, there's like a force and an anger, you could say. It comes out of their nose in an angry sort of steam. I don't know if it visually does, but I mean, symbolically, that's how I take these bull-like horned tackling figures to be. This is an issue of anger, then, I think. Anger is being associated with fire, with volcanoes, and the eruption of that anger, perhaps, with the eruption of the fire up from the center of the earth to the external side of the earth. So, eruption of anger outside of yourself, kind of like showing it, tackling someone like a bull. A bull's anger is kind of like, in the cartoon, like Looney Tunes cartoon bulls are kind of like raging with anger. They can barely contain it. It literally is kind of like steam coming out of their ears, coming out of their noses. Like there's an anger that's like a heat, so to speak. And this heat, then, this association with heat, of anger, I find interesting if we're to take only these two examples, because then I feel perhaps we can look at this sort of anger as something that perhaps explodes outwards, and the volcano is a good image for that, something that's been contained, coming out in movement. Movement at some level is heat, right? Heat, is fire, and fire is like moving, something moving that comes out from its hiding place. It can't be kept still anymore. It moves. And I feel a volcano is a good image of that, and the water, the lava that comes out of it is a good image of whatever happens when that heat has been contained and comes out in some way. And I wonder if I can connect this back to my idea of Mario 64 having a sort of preference for volcanoes on the left side of the castle as looked at from the front, kind of thing, if we look at it as the starting game position. This left side volcano thing, obviously I could look at the right side and look at, for example, the snowman's land, and I could interpret the snowman as being a volcano symbol, because he has like a plant growing out of his head, which could signal sort of like like the fuse of a bomb, or like fire or something growing out of his head, like a sprouting, exploding image. I could look at it that way, in that symbolic sort of sense. I could look at, for example, on the right side of the castle, we've got Hazy Maze Cave. And looked at from the outside, it also looks like a hole filled with bubbling, scary sort of liquid, like a volcano, like an image of a hole that reveals dark liquids in the underworld. If I wanted to look at it like that. However, I choose not to look at it like that because, I'm concerned that we could look at things from any angle possible, but there is an argument to be made for arguing in favor of a position, right? And I find that the left side of the castle, so far, has convinced me more of having a volcano-like predominance. What with, the cases I mentioned already, plus the pyramid in Shifting Sandland, if we were to take the symbolic route, makes more sense to me as a volcano image, since pyramids in this game also have like a hole at the top of the mountain and are associated with the sun. I think pyramids are kind of like triangles that have the sun at its peak. At least symbolically, I think that in ancient Egypt, the tip of the pyramid was, I think, associated with the sun, or pointed towards the sun, or there was something solar about pyramids. So it kind of indicates the same pattern I'm pointing to, of mountains that have some sort of explosive fire element at the top. Given these cases then, right, Tiny Huge Island volcano, which I think is a volcano, has some sort of a crater substance in it, even though it's not filled with lava. So again, I'm reading it in a sort of subjective way, obviously, but trying to make a case for this particular view, you could say. Something I didn't mention, though, is that it concerns me, or it interests me, that the left side, I hope I've been calling it the left side, we are speaking about the left side of the castle, is also, from the outside, nearer to the garden, the area where the water comes out of the wall and becomes a waterfall. So it's the beginning also of a splashing out of liquid from some sort of a contained space. The water splashes out and is in movement. Whereas the right side of the garden holds a pacified, liquid reservoir, a lake, like a Pacific, I don't know what the word would be, like a really calm little lake where, compared to the waterfall, movement has kind of come down in speed compared to the waterfall. So there's a speed issue, like movement in the waterfall, and a sort of tendency towards a lack of movement in the lake, so to speak. So it kind of raises the question for me, could the image I was mentioning of the placid, I'm using adjectives that work in my favor here, but the mirror, could that be an image of still water? Water maybe that you can see your reflection in? Could the Waterworld entrance, Diadai Docks, be also a body of water that is not splashing out, but instead has been contained and is still like a lake, and the same, of course, for the aquariums. Are they, contained compared to movement, so to speak? Like, that would be my claim, at least. In a sense, it's a video game-wide question, because big, calm bodies of water in video games may often be associated, maybe in Nintendo adventure games, in a slightly more child-friendly edition of gaming from the 90s, big bodies of water in these sorts of games might often be associated to calm kind of levels. You may have enemies, but it may give a sort of a calming feeling. The music is calming. Whereas maybe fire levels, lava levels, you've got like heavy rock music, or they have a sort of rocking, hard intensity to it, like a movement, a stronger movement maybe than the water, that might indicate also a stronger emotional movement, like anger, like a will to not do certain things, or to do certain things a certain way, to want to have your way like a bull and tackle into something that you don't want. You want it away from you. You want to have your way, your kind of space, so to speak. So it's a more sort of wide question, perhaps. And regarding Mario 64, maybe my question is, could we consider the left side of the castle overall to have something to do with anger or movement, and the right side of the castle with a certain calmness, pacifying stillness, so to speak?